Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a really great episode up for you tonight. We are welcoming back Amelia Cotter. I'm Mike Ricksecker, your host, along with my co-hostess, Vanessa Hogle, and of course, our chat Shananigator, Shana, down in the chat room. So it's been about a year since we've had Amelia on, but you know, we have that Haunted Road Media Paracon coming up here, so Amelia is going to be there, of course, so we had to bring her back. But Amelia always has a lot of stuff going on anyway, so really happy to have her back. And Vanessa, I know that you're eager to get to housekeeping.
I am.
So go ahead.
Okay, so I put a teaser. On Facebook, and you know, plus my big old cheesy grin because I was so fucking excited. I have been okayed to announce this. I still can't say the name of the venue because the press release hasn't come out yet. But I am so excited to say that I have been picked to exhibit. I have to read this. To exhibit my art on September 25th, 2018, so this year, people, hi, at the Gold Coast of Chicago, one of its most major museums, where they are having a very elaborate function, and I will get to be a part of that. And that is all thanks to Matthew Virgin, who is my rep. He's my rep for my art. He's my representative. And he is with 501 for Humanities, which is an organization that pulls charities together. And so I will be a part of this auction, this art exhibit. I won't be selling mine in the auction. That's for the big dogs. But I get to play in the dog park with them. Ah, I'm so excited.
I'm really happy for you, Vanessa. That is awesome.
Huge. This is huge. It would have taken me decades to get this opportunity. So I cannot thank Matthew enough and 501 for Humanities. And it is just going to be an absolutely amazing thing. And people need to know the same place I'm going to be showing at the following day. This is how big this place is. The largest art venue, the largest art exhibit function in the world happens there the very next day.
Awesome. There's a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas, and he says, "Congrats, Vanessa."
Thank you.
So thank you, Tom.
And one other thing, real quick, just my rest of my housekeeping. To everyone who is watching, don't forget, in 2 weeks, Christina George and I will be doing a show on her radio station. Y'all, this is a huge deal. Like 750,000 people listen to this show every time she's on, every time we're on. It's a big deal. We are actually discussing bullying in the paranormal. We want people to share their stories. We want people to speak up. But you better have proof. This isn't a bitch fest to slam people with no proof. I won't tolerate it, neither will Christina. But we want people to stand up for themselves, and I refuse to back people who won't back themselves. So I'm putting that out there right now. I'm calling you out.
Good deal. And Pamela Rainey wants to tell you, don't get stuck up and not talk to us anymore. So about the art.
Fuck that.
There we go. There's our Vanessa. There's the F-bomb.
I know, right?
Right.
I'm sitting here in a torn-up sweatshirt, y'all, and I really need to put on more deodorant. So, yeah, this is me.
Well, thank you.
But I have on pants.
All right. So, real quickly, White Rabbit Notification Squad. I know Donna Gortner's organized you guys, so do your thing. Go share it out there for anybody that may not have gotten notification. And keeping track with some stuff with YouTube, they have noticed a notification issue that has affected a certain percentage of YouTubers. So there's that. So have at it, White Rabbit Notification Squad. And if you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Click that bell icon for notifications for everything that we have going on. And you should, hopefully, fingers crossed, get a notification when we go live like this. So now, without further ado, Amelia, welcome back.
Hello, thank you.
So Amelia is a paranormal investigator, author, storyteller. She's got a ton of different things going on. I know you kind of gave me a short list of different things, and we're going to get to some of these different things. So you have the Tinker Swiss Cottage, Scary Stories documentary, Apparitions Project. Of course, you always have your writing and the RIP files, and I have a hard time keeping track of you.
I have a hard time keeping track of myself sometimes. At times it feels unmanageable, but it's been a very busy spring. So every year I say that I'm not going to be as busy as I was the year before, and every year I am busier than I was the year before. So, but a lot of things are coming together this year that have been in process and in progress for a long time. And should I just launch into that?
Just go ahead and launch it. I mean, the Scary Stories documentaries, just to pick one real quick, I mean, that intrigued me right off the bat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's been, that's been coming down the pipeline for a while. So Cody Merrick is the director of that, and he's been working on that for a couple of years. And right now it's making the festival circuit, and then it will be released, I think, on DVD and streaming services later this year. But that is a documentary all about the scary stories to tell in the dark that we all probably loved when we were kids, were at the time it came out. And it's like a celebration and an homage, and also talks about the controversy. It's one of the most banned children's books of all time. And then
it kind of broke up a little bit there. So which book was it? Because that totally cut out.
Really?
Yeah.
The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Okay.
Series.
Okay.
Okay. And so it's kind of an homage to the series and the illustrations, the famous illustrations by Stephen Gammell and Alvin Schwartz's folklore and his folk writing and children's Gothic literature. So I was interviewed as part of the documentary. I appear in it 3 times for about 7 seconds, talking about just various reactions that I had to different types of stories and that are featured in the book. I don't know if people in the chat are excited about it. I know everybody has like their favorite story from Scary Stories, but mine was always about Harold the Doll.
Yeah, B3 Airspace is saying, I have those books. They are awesome.
Yeah, I have the original ones that I had when I was a kid too. So I haven't hung on to much from my childhood, but that I still have my original copies of the book. So it's a really cool documentary. It's just a nice like nostalgia trip, and gives a lot of insight into Alvin Schwartz as a writer, and I think R.L. Stine is interviewed in it. So I got to see it on the big screen when it was here for the Chicago Horrorama Fest.
Okay.
And that was cool.
So it's doing the whole festival circuit right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You know where that's playing next?
Somewhere in Indiana. I know the Scary Stories documentary has its own Facebook, page. And it's got a bazillion followers, and you can go there and get all the latest updates.
Very cool. Very cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
I need to read these.
It's like a weird, like I grew up and it was always it was like the most influential book. You know, I loved it when I was a kid, and then getting the opportunity to be interviewed for a documentary about it was just the trippiest thing, you know. It's just too cool. So it was really exciting. And we filmed in there's a big abandoned cathedral in Gary, Indiana. And that was really cool to film there.
That's where my family lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vanessa, you're probably familiar with that.
And we saw, this guy that I didn't know drove me there because he was being interviewed too, because I don't have a car. So I asked him if he would be so kind. He was an artist, not, you know. I asked him if he would drive my things bought and everything. So he drove me over to the Demon House so I could take some pictures of it. And that was actually shortly before it got torn down. So I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
I got to go after it got torn down.
Oh.
I was stuck at Chicago O'Hare. And I, of course, because it's me, I went on Facebook and I just was bitching up a storm because of Chicago air, because I got stuck, you know. And my family that lived in Gary saw it and phoned me, and they're like, well, we're coming to get you. And they did, and they took me by it. It had already been torn down, but whew, just the area itself.
Yeah, when you go over there to where the house was originally, it's just a very weird area. It doesn't look like it from the pictures. JP, quick. Sorry, we got an escapee over here. Thank you. But yeah, the house, like you see all the pictures of where the house was, but right across the street from it is like a weird abandoned warehouse. Mm-hmm. So, and like literally across the street, there's like 20 feet away, and then there's like 3 other houses, and it's really desolate, and it just seemed like a sad place to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I wanted to get out and walk the property. And my cousin who took me there, he was like, do not get out of this vehicle. He goes, you'll get shot.
Yeah, the guy that drove me there, who was also interviewed, obviously, for the documentary, was not really as excited as I was about driving over there. So he was like ready to go. So yeah, I rolled down the window and took a couple of photos, and then we got the hell out of there.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been torn down, but that's just my personal opinion.
I don't know that much about that part of the story, so I just knew we were close enough to go see the, take in the spectacle. But I do want to see the documentary too. I've heard a lot of mixed thoughts. So
yeah, I guess that's been out for a little while now.
Yeah.
And we had a $5 super chat from Jen. So thank you very much, Jen. Really do appreciate that. So, okay, so that was the Scary Stories documentary. What about the Apparition Project? And that's another one that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, so the Apparitions Project is actually not about ghosts and the supernatural at all, but I wanted to tie in. So the other part of me that is not involved with writing ghost stories and folklore and all that kind of stuff, I'm a poet, so I'm an award-winning poet, many times over-published, and this will be my first book of poetry and prose, and it's an anthology that includes the works of other authors, and it's going to include photography of haunted, abandoned places in and around Chicago and Illinois, kind of to bridge so that I still have something to offer people that are my current audience, and then sort of branch out and do something different with the poetry. And the theme is anxiety and addiction and isolation and suicide and some other some key elements that have been an important part of my life and people that I love, their lives and their struggles. So I invited a lot of people to contribute to it. Ended up getting way more. I have 35 different poets from around the world submitting lots and lots of cool stuff, very moving. So I'm working on the final stages of that. So kind of wrapping up this summer with some of the appearances and that kind of stuff, and then diving deep into looking into getting that shopped around to different publishers and getting the final touches put on that. So,
well, you've definitely piqued the interest of our audience, because you have like Spooky and Tom McNicholas, B3 Aerospace, all saying, "Yeah, awesome, congrats, want the book." Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's, timely. I feel like, I've always wanted to make what I do count, for something more. And even with the ghost stories and writing, there's always opportunities to connect with people. And to touch people's lives and stuff like that. But I'm kind of at a point now where, I want to dive a little deeper with that, especially in the world that we live in right now and our political climate and everything else. People, I feel like my voice, I want my voice to be heard and other people's voices to be heard, talking about things I think we can all relate to, and I don't know, it's going to be a poetry book, so it is what it is. If you like poetry, it'll be great. But, just kind of doing something a little bit different.
Have you accepted all of your submissions?
I am still accepting submissions. So if somebody has like a poem, short poetry, short prose, or even like a quote. Like I was out sort of to get like pithy sort of quotes that you might see on like a meme on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Like those powerful messages about, you know, loneliness and suicide or anxiety, different types of mental illness too. I'm still searching for those, so the door's not closed on that or on photography submissions either. So my husband, Jonathan, who I think you saw in the background, is curating all of the photography submissions. And so
you'll be getting a message from me.
All right.
And yeah. I, by no means, you know, do you need to feel any obligation at all? It might be too dark.
It won't be. Okay. Believe me. There's nothing too dark. It's the kind of, it's gonna go there. You know, it's gonna go there. So if you have something that goes there, that's. I don't want to use the word wonderful, but that would be fitting for the book. So
I've always wanted a place for this one to go. I wrote it in 2009, and it actually came from a nightmare. I was going through a really difficult time.
Send it to me, and we'll talk about it. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing is pairing the different elements of the book, different poems, different quotes, different segments, with different photos and also other poems and quotes, so that everybody's, you know, deepest feelings, darkest feelings and thoughts have like a significant place throughout the collection. So we'll see if it has a good fit. Mm-hmm. I don't want to drop it in there and you're like, oh, that didn't really hit the mark, because this meant a lot to me, and it's like right next to some, you know, something, you know, not that there's anything like that in the book, but that'll be something that I want to specifically curate the book. But then of course I'll be submitting it to publishers, and then they'll do what they want to do with it too. Exactly. But please send anything that you are willing to share, send it over. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Consider it done after the show.
Cool. All right.
Mike, where'd you go, hon?
Well, I was. You guys were chatting, so I'll, you know.
Sorry.
No, it's the show. That's what happens, and so I don't want to break a nice fluid stream of conversation. So I'll just sometimes, you know, have at it, watch the chat, see what's going on, you know. So it sounds like a fantastic project. So
it really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
And poetry, I don't believe gets the props it deserves. I mean, poetry. I think
not these days.
Personally, it's harder to write than a book, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and a lot of poetry that's easily accessible to people is really like, kind of like goofy and like heavily laden with like all sorts of flowery language, or it has to be so avant-garde or weird, and it has to. You know, there's a lot of ego involved in it, and so I have been a haiku poet for years, and haiku is not like 575 like the stuff you learn in elementary school. Like, it's an art form, like doing different types of short form poetry, and it has a lot of rules, and there's a lot of nuances to it, and it really takes out, you know, when you're able to say something in the least amount of words as possible, it's the best way to connect to the audience, and not just feel like you're being artsy fartsy. You know, because that's my problem. I'm around a lot of poetry people, and they drive me crazy. So,
we have a $5 super chat from Raul, 5 for Mueller. So thank you very much, Raul. Really do appreciate that.
What is a super chat?
That's a feature here on YouTube that they've initiated. Basically, it's a donation for the channel as we go along, so people contribute to. And support us. So it's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. We have the best people. Wow. I don't care what anybody says. We got the best people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely fantastic. So, all right. So, Tinker Swiss Cottage, what's going on there?
Yeah. So, my friend Michael Clean, he is a writer here in Illinois. Well, now he's based in New York, but he's writer, and he's done a lot in the community. He's been on Ghost Adventures, documentary about the Tinker Swiss Cottage in Rockford, Illinois, which is a really cool place, and ever since I moved to Chicago, that was kind of on the bucket list of places to go. But since I don't have a car, I've always been limited in where I could go. And he asked me if I would host this documentary. And it's an hour-long documentary about the history and the hauntings of Tinker. And it's very tastefully done. People telling their ghost stories, and people who work there who obviously love it and take really good care of the place, and they take care of each other and everything. And the Tinker, Robert Tinker was like a really cool, interesting person who built this house in Swiss architecture style. Like, he built it, like literally built the house, and it's beautiful. He lived there with his wife, and interesting gathering of people and pets. And so it's a haunted house that's has a very warm, interesting, cool feeling to it. And everything these days is the demon house, this and that, the other. And so I had the pleasure of hosting this really cool documentary and doing my Robert Stack impression. And that was released in March, and there's going to be a release party again, I think, in July, so I get an excuse to go back and visit the place again. Rockford's about 2 hours outside of Chicago, west.
Is it really that far? Wow.
I guess, in traffic. I took the train, so
with traffic,
it was I took the train. The train was about 2 hours, but maybe not with traffic, maybe an hour and a half.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, Tom McNicholas is saying he just went by the Tinker House the other day. So
cool.
Tom's in the Chicago area, so yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's just the neatest place, and the people who run it are really cool. And then so this is just me squeeing. I have an IMDb page now, and it's on there with the Scary Stories documentary, and then I go to my own IMDb page, and I'm like, damn, Amelia, nice.
You go.
Yeah.
Awesome though, and it's totally cool to be proud of yourself for your accomplishments.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's some amazing work, and the opportunities that you've been given, you haven't poo-pooed them away. You've taken it and run with it.
Yeah,
and that's something a lot of people don't have the balls to do.
They're excited and just So, and the RIP files is still coming out someday.
Yeah, what's going on with that? Because I know it aired in Japan for a couple of years. And so it's supposed to be coming back here, right?
It did not air in Japan. That's the funniest thing that you say that, because people are like, oh, you guys are famous in Japan now.
I thought that's what happened, no?
Sci-Fi Asia is not in Japan, as I learned.
Oh, okay.
So Sci-Fi Asia picked it up, which is 10 countries, but not Japan.
But not Japan, okay.
And then it came out to some success, pretty great success in England and the UK on Really TV and UK TV Play. It's still
okay.
No dumb.
Yeah, and it's it's been a really awesome experience. Season 1, which I'm not on, is available on Amazon, iTunes, Xfinity, Gaia TV. You can see it in a bunch of different places. But seasons 2 and 3, which are the ones that I'm on, have been tied up in these interesting deals. So since the show is not owned by a network, it's owned by a distribution company, things are just happen differently. And so word on the street is that we will be on streaming services this year. Plus, we will be airing on several networks here in the U.S. so that people will be able to see the dang show finally. By the time you see my face on TV, it will be 4 years old. It will be a 4-year-old version of my face. I am in a completely different place in my life than I was at that time, but I'm sure everybody will remember me for this, being this goofball on this show. But
now, are you guys still filming that at all, or what's going on there?
I think there is intention to film more episodes. I think that the production group wants to film a pilot for something else. And so there's still a lot of buzz and excitement, but it's just been an interesting waiting game. And but I've certainly all of us and I have been able to capitalize on the successes that the show has had. Just abroad. People are like, oh, you know, I've been to like all these Comic-Cons and stuff like that. I mean, I can charge, you know, to speak places because, oh, she's from a TV show. What TV show? The RIP Files. Oh, what is that? That's cool. Fine. Bring her. So yeah, like I have, you know, it's been pretty cool, and the show's pretty rad. And I will talk about it at the Paracon in June. I'll show some clips from it, and then also talk about like what it's like to be on a TV show and what was different than what I thought, and what was the way I thought it would be, and how it kind of works, and what I know. So maybe spill some dirt on some of the other people that are in the industry. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that'll be an interesting topic because, you know, people really don't know what happens behind the scenes. They only see what's on TV, and they have their own ideas of what really goes on. Yeah.
So, and I can only speak from our experience from our show, but I'm, you know, I can speak candidly about it. So.
Yeah. Well, Tom is saying you're famous in Chicago.
What a lot of people don't realize is, you said that it went really well in England, right?
Yeah.
And with Really TV, I guess people assume because of the show The Haunted that is on over there, that they do all their stuff over there, that it's their people, and that's actually incorrect. Really TV, I'm good friends with Don Wilkinson, who's from Really TV. He's one of the head honchos over there, and I've investigated with him. He's one of my buddies. And they get 95% of their stuff from the U.S., from people doing their stuff in the U.S.
Yeah.
So when you do get shown over there, it's huge.
It's fun. Well, it's fun too. I mean, people assume that we filmed in Europe because we were shown in Europe, but we filmed, all of our episodes were filmed on the East Coast, in the Mid-Atlantic, and not maybe at one or two of the famous notable places that everybody knows about, Moundsville Penitentiary and stuff, but at a lot of smaller places that nobody had seen on TV before. So it was really neat to capture some of these locations and for people to see something different.
Well, and as fascinated as we are by what happens overseas and the hauntings over there, they're equally, if not more, fascinated by our haunted locations. They take for granted what we wish for, and vice versa.
Yeah. Having all that history, yeah.
Exactly. They see it every day. They don't care. They want to see what we've got going on over here, and it's brilliant that you got that chance to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, super exciting. Everybody put a lot of hard work into, you know, all of us. It's been kind of a fun effort because it's not just like the people who appear on the show have helped behind the scenes in different ways too. Like everybody is pitched in on social media or pitched in, even helping with like I don't even know what the term is, but like some of the, not the line editing, but like timing, you know, each second you have to have, if there's words, you have to have like a record of what those words were. So we've all pitched in doing different things, listening to the EVPs that get passed around, like, is this somebody whispering or was this a ghost? Like stuff like that, you know. It was really cool being a part of the whole process.
So we have a $10 super chat from BD Flint. Thank you very much, BD. Always appreciate it. All right.
Loved it.
Yeah, that's I think it's just really interesting, your experiences, both here, abroad, and I think you offer an honest perspective, and you'll be bringing that to the Paracon with you as well.
Yeah, I hope to. I don't really have a lot of illusions. I don't know what to say about, like, I've been doing this for a long time, as far as being in this field or whatever you want to call it, surrounded by a lot of different people, and not much really impresses me. So I don't mean that in like a shitty way. I mean that, like, I'm not super wowed by like every little thing as far as paranormal stuff and people involved in the paranormal. I try to take a reasonable attitude towards all of it, and towards my role in it. Like, this is really cool. I've been on this paranormal investigation show. But paranormal investigation shows are having or have had their heyday, and it's it's an interesting world to be a part of, but I don't have any like delusions of grandeur about it or anything. It is what it is. But
Well,
really,
where do you think that's going these days? You know, you kind of said, you know, they had their heyday. Where do you think shows are going these days?
I don't know. I feel like well, there's a lot of competition. What's happening is that the world of television is changing because of streaming services and YouTube.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of high competition for shows that actually land on TV. And that's why you see some of these more ridiculous premises showing up on paranormal shows. Like I think they wanted to have like naked ghost hunting or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that was an idea that I think ever took off, but it was like an idea.
Yeah, it was an idea out there for a while, Vanessa.
Yeah. Certain things are on TV that you look and you're just like, wow, so this is what came of all the ideas that came across the cutting board floor or whatever, like this one passed. And it's what catches attention, what makes money, what people can hate watch. So
Right.
Ghost hunters hate watch paranormal shows as much as regular people who don't give a shit about ghost hunting hate watch. You know,
Sure.
That's a relationship a lot of people have with like a show like the Kardashians or something. People just want to watch to see what goes wrong. And then there is like a group of people that are engaged and enjoy and have love for the people on the show and the subject matter and everything. So it's really not about like people say, oh, I wish there was more integrity in the world of ghost TV and stuff. But
Right. Well, and everything has to be a
really,
demon
but
these days.
yeah, exactly. That's not really what the TV is there to aim for. So, you know, that being said, I think people are going to be moving more towards the ghost storytelling aspect of things, which is still interesting, and it's still interesting to me, like the Paranormal Witness style shows that have like the dramatizations.
Right. I think we lost Vanessa.
Yeah,
Trying to bring her back.
I'm back. I'm just waiting for you to put me back on there. I don't know why it dropped.
Oh, so you can hear us. We hear
I
you.
can hear you. I can see y'all.
Click your video button. It looks like you just turned off video.
No, my video's
There you go.
on. I am. That has never happened.
Paranormal activity.
Yep.
I know, right?
Yep. We're dissing the shows, talking about everything having to be a demon, and, you know, there you go.
Boom.
You got jinxed.
But Amelia's right, though. A lot of people, and I think that's where people get confused, a lot of people do hate watch those shows. And thank you for bringing that up, because it's the truth.
It's true. I mean, you know, most of the people I know who are paranormal investigators would cut their own mother to be on one of those shows. But then they criticize, they criticize everybody, you know, on the shows, and they have a problem, and everybody's fake, and everyone's awful. And there are degrees to which that is true and total bullshit. So so even within our, I would say, community, we do not support those television shows necessarily. I have had the experience where most of the people I know haven't even seen me on the show yet. And a lot of people, you know, dropped off the face of the earth, or suddenly I became really interesting, whereas I was not interesting to people before. And they have not even seen the show. They don't even know what I did. I could stand there and drool for 10 minutes. They have no clue. So it's been interesting to be a part of that and be deep down in it. As me, a person, Amelia, and then like looking at Twitter comments from like UK followers of the show that are like, what an idiot, you know, or, you know, things like that. And just thinking to myself, I'm not a person to them. So it is what it is.
And that's one of the reasons why, because people ask me all the time, they're like, well, because I've turned down stuff, and I've publicly stated I don't want to be on TV in that aspect. And that's part of the reason why, and it's what you brought up. It's people hate watch. They watch something like that, even when it is the most accurate, authentic, real thing out there.
That's
they want to, simply to tear it apart.
Yeah. Even if it's, my friend Adam Seltzer says, there's no such thing as good ghost evidence, only cool ghost evidence, because if it's too good, it'll be torn to bits, and if it's awful, it'll be torn to bits, and it'll be torn apart by people who are skeptics and by people who are lovers of the paranormal alike. So you can never win.
Exactly.
And
there's no winning.
I mentioned before that, like, I'm in a different place now than I am when I was gunning to be part of a TV show. And I came into this opportunity in a weird way too. And I'm extremely grateful and glad for it. It's weird now that all these years later, 4 or 5 years later, now the show's coming out. I'm not the same person that I was, but I'll have to sort of speak for that person that I used to be. So.
Well, do you think there's a lot of people out there, different paranormal investigators that that's kind of their focus? They've seen the TV shows and that's what they're gunning for. Do you still see a lot of that?
Oh yeah, totally. So people have watched a lot of these shows. Now, when I was younger and Ghost Hunters first came out, I was like, wow, this is really neat. There's a show about this. There's a show about stuff that, like, I'm interested in and that I've seen people do, and it's filled with people who don't seem crazy. Like, wow, this is super neat. At this point, there's just so many people and so many people who know everything and that they're the best and that they have all the information. It's saturated in that regard. But then I also hear people using like what they probably refer to as like standard terminology for different types of activity or spirits or EVPs and stuff, as if these are things that we all refer to it this way. And it's like, no, they heard this term the first time on a television show, and now it's become their gospel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but
it makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think it's okay too if you have a perspective on it and you realize it and you're like, I've been influenced by these people and it's cool. But people sort of get deep down into this hobby, which is can be already dangerous to do anyway. And then they kind of forget where they started. They sort of lose themselves in it, and it's different to talk to people that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, that were doing it back in the 80s, even the 90s, even the earliest of 2000s before these shows started coming out, and their methods and their books and their resources and their references that they use versus now when you have TV, you have the entire internet at your fingertips and everybody with this loud opinion. So.
Well, and you're using some of that as far, you have books, you do have,
oh yeah.
You do have a show that's coming out, even though it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're doing all these other projects. So how are you using your voice today to kind of bring this world of the paranormal and supernatural to others?
That was never my intention. So when I started writing, I wanted to be a writer, and I decided to write about ghosts because I had this passion that I was going to write ghost stories and then talk about my cancer story and stuff like that. So that's how it started, and then it spiraled into wanting to be part of the ghost hunting world and paranormal investigation. The message that I've always maintained, I think, as far as that goes, is that we really don't have all the answers, and we don't necessarily need to have all the answers. So I have been like a folklorist at heart, and somebody who is always fascinated by people's stories and haunted locations and having it and mysteries and the mysteries of life and what are hauntings, what are ghosts, and what does it mean to us in our daily lives that we're fascinated by ghosts. And I have never tried personally to take it farther than that by, there's a lot of like, oh, I want to prove that something about the afterlife and this, that, or the other. Like, for me, it's always been getting people excited about the world around us and all the wonderful places, getting people excited about history and how ghost stories connect us to history. I think that the RIP Files does a good job of that in the sense that it hits the storytelling aspect real hard. And communicating and telling the stories of spirits. And then it goes deep down into the paranormal investigation part, which really isn't, I've been doing it for a long time, but it's not the most exciting part for me, and it's not my expertise. If you look at me on camera with the freaking K2 meter, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, somebody tries to explain to me that, like, yeah, when the ghost is going to come through on this piece of electronic equipment, and then in the next breath they tell me that, like, using a Ouija board is crazy. I'm like, wait. None of this is science. This is not science. If you ask me to ping this thing once for yes and twice for no, I don't know what the hell you're saying, and I'm alive. How's somebody who died in 1850 supposed to know what you're talking about when you're like, light up this, make the light green? What the hell,
Yeah, exactly. Do it.
Almost dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah, but, depending on how old the spirit is, and Shana and I have talked about this a lot, and Vanessa too, that, something, if the spirit's, back in the 1700s or whatever, you have this funky looking device that's lighting up and doing all this crazy stuff, they're going to look at that and be like, witchcraft, and scare them.
Yeah,
it's something
exactly.
that's, of the devil or something crazy.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my ongoing contention with my own involvement in ghost hunting has always been that I felt weird going into places and like asking people to talk to me. I'm naturally an introvert and would never go into the house of the living person and just be like, hello, is there anybody here?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't go into other people's houses and make demands and say, hey, knock on walls, open a door, hit me. I love those. Hit me. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Like, I know, right? And so it's strange for me to do that in places that I respect a lot, and trying to connect with spirits, and just sometimes I take a step back and I think, like, God, I'm being really silly right now. But at the same time, it's really fascinating, and it's also fun, which I know is like a 4-letter word. Well, it's a 3-letter word, but it's a 4-letter word in the ghost hunting world, because it's not supposed to be fun. It's only supposed to have deep meaning. It's only supposed to prove the afterlife exists or something like that. But I think I think a lot of people started from a place of adventure and exploration and fascination or fear, and that we don't talk about emotion enough in ghost hunting. Everything has become about this scientific method, and making the conditions right, and I got this hit on this instrument, and then I heard this voice, and this EVP said this, and people don't talk as much about like how they felt and what it was like, and with the experience and the visceral sort of experience of being in these places, which I think is what gets people going in the first place.
Mike and I do.
Yeah, good. I mean, it is. People do talk about it. It's just, it's rare to emphasize that.
Yeah, and Shana gave you an amen in the middle of there, and one of the things I've always respected about you, Amelia, is that when you kind of lay out your bio, one of the things you call yourself is a storyteller, and so you have, through your writing, have been telling the stories of these spirits.
Yeah, I always have called myself a storyteller, and then other people are free to call me an investigator or ghost hunter or ghost historian, which was a new one for me this year. But and I like ghostorian and I like ghost lorist as well. And so those are terms that I think are fun and fitting. I've never really referred to myself as a paranormal investigator because I don't want to overstep that bound. And then here in Chicago, there are a lot of great writers and speakers and minds who have done a lot of research. And, I try to stay in my lane. This is what I do. And I don't just write about ghosts or think about ghosts on a daily basis. So storyteller also encompasses a lot of the other stuff that I do. And I try to, like I said, just stay in my lane and keep my message clear.
You hit on a really important part, and something that Mike and I have talked about at great length. And that is, it seems like everybody is in it to prove that something exists. And that's something I don't believe you do. I know Mike doesn't, and I'm damn sure I don't. I don't care if people don't want to listen or watch or read because I haven't proven it to them, because it's not my job to prove it to them.
Yeah.
It's my job to speak for those who can't speak on a conventional basis anymore.
Right.
And I mean, is that something that you've just seen too much of? Is that really where we've gotten?
I think that is. I also don't think that if we were able to prove that ghosts existed, that it would necessarily lend any proof to the idea of an afterlife or not. We don't really know what ghosts are. Now, let's say we do find out that ghosts are the spirits of people. That doesn't really tell us any more about the nature of life and death than what we already know and what we've already guessed through religion and other aspects of philosophy that people were thinking of for thousands and thousands of years before ghost hunters ever came along. I also think that appreciating the beauty and the mysteries of life is a part of life. And, you know, people always assume that ghost hunters are like goths who are like obsessed with death and stuff. And then they meet ghost hunters and they're like, oh, it's like a bunch of regular people, and often like at least reasonably minded people. They're not all dressed up like Marilyn Manson and stuff. And it's like, no, we're not. Nobody. I don't know anybody who's obsessed with death. I've met a few weirdos, and honestly, they've been few and far between. But I mean, they've been real weird. But like, it's mostly like regular people with a variety of different jobs and stuff like that. But and I saw a comment when the chat screen flashed up about getting cool EVPs and voices and stuff. And I will say that of all the types of evidence I've ever collected myself personally or seen other people get or talk about, to me, EVPs are the coolest thing. You know.
Why that over everything else?
Hands down. I think they're the most easily accessible for each person, so anybody can go out with their recording device and capture an EVP. I had a little analog tape recorder that I would use, and I could still, you know, I was capturing EVPs on that. Not very clear, and I'm sure that having, you know, a cool program like Audacity or something like that would have helped me hear them better. But, you know, those are sort of like when you capture a conversation or a ghostly voice or something like that, that excites me more than still photos and more than videos, because you run into the problem now of all sorts of
tampering.
Yeah, tampering and stuff. And not that you can't do that with EVPs either, but at least in the moment when you capture it, it's a neat experience. So.
You'll love this. I've got to tell you this. Mike's heard this one before, but I don't think you have. The best EVP I ever got got on accident in my car.
Oh, wow.
I was on WhatsApp. You know how it is. You can either call on WhatsApp or you can send messages back and forth, voice messages. And I had sent a message had gotten sent back to me, and it was a rough conversation I was having. A message had got sent back to me, and I had forgotten what we were talking about, so I went back and listened to my message first, then listened to the next one. On my message, when I am talking to this person, there is a very distinct woman's voice, older than me, with an accent that says, "That's horrible." Perfect. Absolutely perfect. It was like I had somebody sitting next to me whispering in my cell phone. And that's been heard by other people. I sent it to my buddies in England, and they heard it too. And it was undeniable. And that happened at lunchtime in my car when I was working at Indian Health Services. Not even investigating. This stuff happens all the time. When you have been doing things, ghost or not, but when you've just been going about your daily business, have you ever had those situations happen with a randomly called EVP or a randomly called paranormal experience? Has any of that happened to you, and if so, how has it affected you?
Yes, I don't believe with EVPs, but with other strange things happening. They've usually revolved around times when I was in the middle of writing a book. times when I had come back from filming the show, but it could be like weeks later, but it was like in between filming, like right before or after. And then, so I would assume that it had something to do with that type of energy. And then there have been a few times where just creepy stuff has happened. And it's funny because I don't want to believe it when it's happening, because I'm like, no, this is silly. Why would something paranormal actually be happening right now to me in this moment? Like, I'm being too gullible. Like, I write about this stuff. I've seen stuff. It's not happening. This is not a haunting that's occurring. And so sometimes I dog sit. I've sat for the same people for like 6 years, and in between their old house and the new one that they live in, I experienced some weird stuff staying by myself at both of those houses. And I just kind of powered through it because I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this right now. Like, I go to you, you don't come to me. As far as like ghosts and stuff are concerned.
Isn't that a fascinating viewpoint that you have on it, though, as somebody who has investigated the paranormal, to not be receptacle to it on your own time? You know what I'm saying?
It's like a protective mechanism, because I do get spooked. I am spooked easily, which is another, reason why I was fascinated by exploring abandoned places and ghost hunting and stuff when I was younger, because when you grow up in suburban Maryland, there's not a whole lot to do on the weekends. So that was thrilling, and I'm still a scaredy cat. And I live in the big city of Chicago, and when I hear a freaking creepy noise at night in someone's house, I'm like, I've got two choices. Like, it's a real person and I'm screwed, or it's a ghost and I'm still screwed.
Nice.
I don't like either of these options, and it's got to be one of them. So
awesome.
That's why I'm talking about liking ghost stories and stuff, because I can sit in a car with somebody just hanging out and they're telling me ghost stories, and I feel like I've heard everything, but I'm like sitting in a car listening to somebody tell me a ghost story, and like my eyes will tear up because I'm so like freaked out by what they're telling me, or it touches me so much in this way that I'm just like, oh wow, and that's, those are feelings that I don't mind. But bringing that back around, I feel like I have been followed at times mostly after filming the show, to be honest, and that has not been a pleasant feeling, of having nightmares or waking up and having like my foot being grabbed, just really creepy stuff that is not comfortable, that even if it was just like a footsteps and it's old lady Marion or something, like, oh, okay, it's just a spirit, but like creepy stuff that is invasive, that feels like it's there specifically to get my attention. I've had scratches and stuff before, and I'm like, nope, not playing, not here to play. And so I always keep that mantra in my head that like the first step to possession is obsession. And I don't mean possession like in that sense. I just mean that like, I'm like, Amelia, don't think about it. Just keep on walking. Like, oh, there's a sound. There's something. I hear something scratching. Whatever. That's fine. I'm just gonna pretend like I don't notice it. Yeah. So don't bother me, and I won't bother you. Go away.
That's awesome. That just made me so happy, because I didn't expect that response. I mean, I expected a little, kind of Billy Badass, I do this on TV, so bring it, and you're like, no, not so much.
No. I tell people, this is what I tell people. I've done a lot of like wilderness hiking, and I'm into wildlife. We have pet snakes. I was going to show you guys some of our pet snakes. So I've been out in the wilderness in Montana and Wyoming, and my dream is always to see a bear. Like, I love bears. I love grizzly bears. I love black bears, and the times in my life that I have encountered a bear in the wild, I have been freaking terrified. I have been awed, and I have been excited, and I have been like touched beyond all reckoning, but I've been freaking scared. And I think that you're supposed to be a little afraid, and that so yeah, for me, ghosts and all that stuff are no different.
But I love snakes. Do I want to see one in the wild? Not so much.
No, but if you want to bring on the snakes here, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, I love snakes. I do.
Oh, I thought we would do some show and tell because most people are probably sick of hearing me talk.
Oh, no, actually, they've been quite fascinated by you. But
I've been looking. I've been looking over my shoulder constantly because our ball python has been out and about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ooh!
This is Sunshine. So my husband Jonathan and I volunteer with the there's Jonathan. Say hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan.
Oh, she is beautiful.
So this is
nice.
Sunshine. So we volunteer with the Chicago Herpetological Society, and we adopted Sunshine through the society. Now you guys can't even.
She's beautiful.
So say hi.
I did not even know you had a snake.
We have 3. So this is our ball, and Sunshine has an injury on his back right here that you might be able to see or not. He has a broken spine.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's about 10 years old, and he's about as long as a male ball python will get. So he's a little over 4 feet. He may keep growing. He's a very sweet boy, just as sweet as pie. He got this injury at an animal shelter in Chicago after he was surrendered. So God knows what his story was before then. And then he was fostered for about 4 years by a wonderful lady who took care of him and actually took him to acupuncture, snake acupuncture.
Wow.
Interesting.
So we're taking him to the vet. We've had him for about 2 months. He's doing great.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. We're taking him to the vet on Friday, actually, just to get him x-rayed to make sure that he's not in any pain, because snakes don't really have a way to let you know if they are in pain, other than wincing and stuff, obviously. But he seems fully functional and fine. We just want to make sure he's okay. So.
Nice.
See, like that, I'm perfectly fine. I could hold him and be perfectly fine. In the wild, it's different.
Yeah, so there was a comment in the chat. Are you bringing the snakes to Paracon?
Boy, I don't know. Maybe we'll sneak him to the hotel. Who knows?
That would be awesome.
It would be easy. They're also, he's also a good traveler. Hi, buddy.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
So Patricia's asking, was he in a cast?
I don't know. So when the lady who started fostering him picked him up from the animal shelter, she found him this way with the injury, and the animal shelter apparently downplayed what had happened and tried to say that, I think they tried to backtrack out of it, assuming that the rumor is true that the injury did happen to him there. But so I don't think so. I think he healed naturally, and he seems to be perfectly fine. He doesn't drag his tail or anything, and he lets you touch him and everything else. So I think he's okay. But
and Judy's wondering what he eats.
This guy, he could eat rats, but ball pythons are finicky eaters, so he only eats adult mice. We feed all frozen thawed because we are also friends to rats and rodents, since they're very smart, amazing creatures in their own right. But snakes do gotta eat, so we feed frozen thawed that we order in bulk. So yes, our freezer is filled with dead mice.
Interesting.
You obviously let him roam as well, correct? Because they have to have their exercise.
Yeah, so he comes out. His exercise, so he's secretive, heavy-bodied snakes that do nothing. He does nothing all day, and that means he's happy. When they do nothing all day, they're happy, but when you bring them out, they're also very happy to climb, to roam around, to feel your body warmth, and to, engage their curiosity. But in the wild, in sub-Saharan Africa, these guys stay down in like termite mounds and animal burrows, and they live in the dark, and they just hang. They're ambush predators, so they literally do nothing. So
he's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
He's wrapping all around me now. So we're going to show you Miles. Miles is our corn snake. Oh my God.
Wow.
So Miles is also 4 feet long, and Sunshine is not letting go. All right, put him.
Oh, stunning!
Isn't he gorgeous?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is going to get real weird real fast. There we go. So this is Miles. We also adopted him through the Chicago Herpetological Society. He's an amelanistic corn snake. We do not know anything about him. He was sick when we got him. We had to, thank you. We had to take him to the vet and ended up having to give him injections because he had a really bad respiratory infection.
Oh, wow.
But you can see he's beautiful. He's
Wow.
somebody took like pretty good care of him. They handled him. He's real easy going. And
He's going in your sleeve.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so it begins. Coming out.
So,
We think, my personal feeling is that he was like a breeder. He might carry a gene that somebody wanted so that they could have some interesting pattern snakes, and that when they were done breeding him, they just got rid of him. So he came through animal control. A lot of the snakes and reptiles that are like up for adoption in the city are surrendered or found by animal control. So, and they have various terrible fates. So I feel like the rule of adopt, don't shop applies to scaly friends just as much as cats and dogs. If you're able to, and corn snakes and ball pythons and boa constrictors are they're like the pit bulls of the reptile world, in that they're very easy to come by. They're heavily bred, and then they are also surrendered and not taken care of properly, and are often in poor conditions. So,
Rebecca Gardner is wondering if the snakes get along with each other.
do they get along? Yeah, they don't really hang out with each other. They don't meet each other, but they wouldn't be bothered for a few minutes to hang out with each other. But if you house snakes together, sometimes that does not go well. So we wouldn't put them together. And corn snakes live in the southeastern U.S. And they're called corn snakes because of this pattern on their belly that looks like Indian corn.
It looks like corn, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Very, very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Absolutely.
We have
That
one
was
more.
fate. That was fate. I didn't even know she had snakes.
I just thought it would be cool because I do interviews all the time. I'm like, if it's gonna be live, let's have some animals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we have one more. I know that Robert White, our Australian friend, was on earlier, but he had to go. But we have one Australian python, a spotted python. So I was going to give him a shout out that I have an Aussie, that I cohabitate with an Aussie myself.
Yeah. Robert's with us all the time, so we'll definitely give him a shout out.
That art rep is an Aussie, and he's in the chat right now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Good day.
Cool.
So we have a baby spotted python named Moonlight, and she's our baby girl, and she's also very cool. And Jonathan is struggling to. There we go.
He's got it.
Oh.
So she is tiny.
Yeah.
She's bitty.
Super tiny.
Oh.
And then, oh my Lord, Miles is wrapped firmly. There we go. Good job, Miles. Thank you. My faithful assistant in all things, Jonathan. So this.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Freaking close. That is Moonlight. You can show off for the camera. She is a baby spotted python. They don't get very big. They're part of the smallest family of pythons in the world. And but she still may get to be about 5 feet long, but she'll be about she'll look like what Miles looks like. She won't be real thick and full bodied like the ball python. And these are really cool guys. In the wild, they eat bats. They hang upside down and catch bats. I know. I love bats too. But she eats little mice with us. So, and she's just a doll. Everybody loves her. So, she was at Reptile Fest, and all these kids. She was held probably by like 100 different kids, and did
Look
not.
at her.
Yeah, look at her go.
Very inquisitive.
Look in the camera.
So when we come home, she and Miles both stick their heads out to be like, who's this? What are you doing here? What do you want? Whereas Sunshine is just secretive all day and doesn't come out and doesn't want to have to do anything to do with anybody. So.
Okay, how big did you say she was going to get again? There was a Tammy was asking in the chat.
So generally they get about 3.5 to 4 feet long, and they stay thin. Some female spotteds get to be about 5 feet long.
Okay.
But I think that's rare. So, and they just have this cool color all their life, this beautiful pattern. So.
I've never seen one like that. She is gorgeous.
Thank you. And she's a real sweetheart. So sometimes they can have bad temperaments. These guys are a little more unpredictable, but she has been a sweet pea for us the whole time.
Nice. So from Zippy Davis, have you ever had a rubber boa, and if so, how do they do in captivity?
I have not, but I have heard great things about rubber boas, that they are that they're like they have like an even temperament, and that they're not terribly difficult to take care of, and they're really beautiful. So there's a lot of research, or I guess resources available online, and there are books and stuff like that, and places to go. People like enthusiasts. I'm on these Facebook groups that are people who like just love spotted pythons and just love ball pythons and stuff. And so there's like so much info out there if you're interested in a particular type of snake, to go learn and learn from all the experts, and have like a whole team of people basically helping you with the animal.
I'm one of those people that when I was mowing my lawn years ago, there was a little garter snake, and most people would just be like, screw it, and run over it.
Yeah.
I stopped everything and went and picked it up and carried it over and made sure that I got it out of the way, because I just can't. I can't.
Bless her heart. Yeah, because, well, all life has value. And I think the way you treat animals is a reflection of who you are as a person, and how you treat people. And, if you have any empathy at all, it takes no extra effort not to harm something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's so true. Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm precious. At least bring the little.
Yeah, we could probably
really
bring
cute.
her in her travel carrier. Let me see.
Yeah.
I think people would really like that, for sure.
I could just love on her.
She's so sweet. I swear to God, she's really sweet. We'll try. We'll try to bring her.
That would be wonderful.
Jonathan's smiling. He's like, oh, try means we're definitely bringing her.
Right. All right. Well, that was a great way to finish off the end of the show. Amelia, I know you're going to be there at the Paracon here in a couple of weeks, but can you let everybody know anything else that you have coming up, where they can find you, books, things, anything you want to give a shout out to?
So I just redid my website. It's ameliacotter.com. I'm on Facebook, and you can always friend me there. And I will be at the Paracon, and then I have some more events coming up later in the summer, and I don't even remember what they are because I'm a professional. But they are definitely listed on my website. So I'm really excited about coming down to Alton now.
Oh, yeah, we're excited to have you.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amelia is like one of those where I feel like I've known you for years, but we've never met. So.
Yeah, I know, right? It's and I read your book before I knew you, or your books before I knew you. So it's like it's extra cool. Yeah, it's just extra cool.
Yeah, very, very. All right, so let's get to the shout outs real quick, and then of course we'll come back for Inside the Upside Down, where Shana and I are doing a ghost hunting 101 session. So.
Cool.
Yeah, beginning tips for new aspiring ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, and I think we could probably quote Amelia from from this episode. All right, so first let's get to our Super Chat superstars, which had been Tom McNicholas, Jen, Rolf Pfeiffer Mueller, and BD Flint. Thank you all very, very much for the Super Chats. So now let's get to our regular shout-outs for the evening. So, of course, we have our chat Shananigator, Shauna down there in the chat, and Donna, one of our Cheshire cats. Oh, I also have to throw out there, she wasn't able to watch with us this evening or get into the chat, but listening apparently over eBuds is, I'm going to say it, Pungai Fungi.
Woo! I love it.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
All right, so let's see. Andrew Cox, thank you very much for being with us again tonight. Pamela Rainey, thank you as well. There's Candy Orton down there in the chat. Thank you, Candy. There is Chuck Banks as well from Beyond the Light Network. So we are simulcasting. Of course, our main channel here is YouTube, Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, but we are also simulcasting over Spreaker and Beyond the Light Network, and then also on Periscope. I should have said all of that earlier in the show, like at the beginning, but I didn't, so now I am. All right, Karen Lynn, thanks for joining us again. Rebecca Gardner, thank you as always. Dawn, Spooky Spectacular, although she's just spooky down there now. Let's see, there's Jen, thanks again. Jen Chipper Terry, thank you for joining us again. Amani Abdallah, our friend from Egypt, thank you for joining us again this evening. I love it. We have somebody from Egypt that's watching us now. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
There's Zippy Davis. Hey, Zippy, how you doing? Matt V, thanks for joining us tonight. Nice to see some new faces in the house. Shay Carroll, thank you very much once again. Joe Chandler, thank you as well. Who else do we have in here? We have quite a few of you in there tonight. Tim Schoen, thanks again, as always. Lenora Moreno, thanks again, as always. There's Tom McNicholas and Samuel Hall. Thanks again. Tammy Heitzman, of course. And who else do we have? Serenable from Ireland. Thanks again. Judy Wilson, thank you as well. Katie Palmer, thank you. And I might have to scroll back down. I know there's a lot of you in the chat, and if I miss anybody, I do apologize. I try to get everybody, but when there's a lot of chat and a lot of you, it's tough to get to everybody. So, all right, I'm going to scroll back down. If you have any last-minute shout-outs, go ahead and throw them in there. And, yep, there's Bonnie Halperin, our other Cheshire cat. And, all right. Vanessa, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, Amelia, thank you again for joining us. I had a great time with you tonight. Always great to pick your brain.
This was so much fun. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I always have a great time with you guys.
Oh, definitely, and love the awesome snake display. That was awesome.
This is going to be a part of it from now on. When I do anything live, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to shut up. I'll just show you the snakes.
There you go. We'll just get right to the snakes.
Just get right to the snakes.
They're beautiful, and so lucky to have you guys as caretakers and giving them all the love and affection and attention that they need. They're true. They're three blessed snakes, and I hope you get to bring Moonlight at least.
I hope so.
I hope so. We will bring Moonlight, and everybody, please adopt, don't shop.
There you go. There you go. And a couple other last-minute shout-outs here. Jen K. and Bethany Warner, and if Diane Hilbert, if I missed her, sometimes I don't know why it is. Sometimes I buzz right by her name. So, all right, everybody. We'll see you in a few minutes here. Stay tuned for Inside the Upside Down next. Just that you might have to refresh the feed real quick. I'll switch everything out and we'll get on it. So again, Amelia, thank you very much.
See you soon, hon.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. So, yay. And see all of you here in a few minutes.